more louder.
Cool.
Cool. Alright, give it just a second. I might post my website in the chat. Just in case you're interested in more yoga. Alright. We're going to do a little bit of a less is more kind of flow today. And I have my beautiful model demonstrating Elliot. And we're going to start off in Shavasana, like we normally do, lying down on your back, if that's comfortable.
Are you going to lie down? I see my head's pointed down more.
That's fine. All right. Laying down here. Start to notice your breath. Try not to change it. Notice your surroundings, what you can hear or smell or feel. And try not to let that be a distraction. Try to let your surroundings sink you deeper, becoming more mindful of yourself and where you are. I've been thinking a lot about the differentiation between meditation and mindfulness. And instead of taking yourself away from it all, try to let it become part of your practice, incorporating it, letting your surroundings and those seeming distractions help you sink deeper, becoming more aware of your surroundings, becoming more aware of yourself within those surroundings. Laying here on your back, maybe put one of your hands on your bellies and one on your chest to feel your breath as we take a few deep breaths in. Take a big belly breath in fully, expanding through the belly and the chest. And then open your mouth and let it out. Do it again at your own pace. Big belly breath in. And then let it go out the mouth. Knowing that your breath is an anchor to bringing yourself back to your attention. Using that breath focus to bring you back to the present and the attention to your body and your practice. So we'll do some practice Ujjayi breath rounds where there's a whisper in the back of the throat, a little bit of constriction. So we'll start here with a big belly breath in, opening the mouth and trying to fog glass in front of your face on the exhale. This time, you take a big breath in, you fog up the mirror with your mouth open, but close your mouth halfway through. Keeping that constriction, that little whisper in the back of your throat through your exhales and even your inhales, if that's in your practice. Just another way of breathing to bring your attention further into your breath. Bring that focus to the present. And when you're ready, start to move your fingers and your toes, maybe rolling through the wrists and the ankles. And starting to bend your knees and plant the soles of your feet behind your hips. And then start to pick up your right foot off the ground, crossing your right ankle over your left knee for a figure 4 stretch. Here, flexing through the foot, engaging through that leg, supporting your knee. If it bothers your knee at any point, go ahead and stop. Do your own thing. And as always, if there's any pain or discomfort past stretching, then stop and do your own thing. Listen to your body. Here, you can maybe put your left hand on your left hip and press it into the ground, trying to get your hips level with one another. And take your right hand and maybe press your right knee away from your body. Just breathing into it here, starting off slow. Take a big belly breath in. Keeping your mouth closed, can you find that Ujjayi breath out on the exhale? Maybe staying here, or maybe interlacing your fingers behind your left thigh to start to bring that entire figure 4 shape in towards your chest. Breathing here. Using that engagement of your leg, of your right leg, to try to press that right knee away from your face. Getting deeper into that hip joint. And then letting that entire figure 4 shape start to fall over to the left. So much that you can start to plant your right sole of your right foot on the ground on the left side, coming into a gentle twist here. You can decide if you want your right knee to be falling in towards your chest for more of an outer hip stretch, or away from your chest for a more inner hip stretch. And breathing here into this twist. If you have the space, maybe stretching your arms out to the side in line with your shoulders, trying to press both shoulder blades into the mat. Breathing here, if you're touching things, if you don't have space, just noticing it and not judging it, just allowing yourself to be in the space where you're in. One more breath here, a big belly breath in. And let it go on the exhale. And then start to pick up the sole of the right foot. And then stack your right knee on top of your left knee, still in this twist. And then gently bring those knees back up and through center, maybe hugging them into your chest. And getting ready to start up on the other side. Planting the sole of your right foot on the ground behind your hip. Start to stack your left ankle over and across your right knee. Coming into that figure 4 position. And bring your right hand to your right hip. And see if you can press that hip away from your face and down into the ground. Seeing if you can get your hips level with one another, and that the stretch comes from the leg in the hip socket. Flexing and engaging through this left leg. Maybe pressing your left knee away from your face. Breathing here. And if you want, start to interlace your fingers behind your right thigh. starting to hug that entire shape in towards your chest, any amount, engaging through that left leg so much that you can use the strength of your leg to press your knee away from your face. Breathing into the stretch. And then start to let this whole shape fall over to the right, starting to plant that left sole of the foot on the ground on the right side of your hip. Coming into a twist with this figure four leg position. Maybe reaching your arms out to a T in line with your shoulders, pressing your shoulder blades into the ground. And then play around with letting that left knee fall in towards your chest or pressing it away from your face. Finding a stretch that feels good for you. Not too focused on what the shape really looks like, because it'll look different for every particular body. But as long as it feels good and you are getting a nice stretch through the whole side body in this twist, maybe the outer hip. Breathing here. And start to pick up the sole of the left foot, stacking your left knee on top of your right knee, keeping this twist for just another moment, and then hugging both knees up and into your chest, coming back through center, maybe rocking side to side or making circles on the ceiling with your knees. And then start to rock and roll up and down your spine, getting ready to meet in a seated position. Whenever you're ready, come up to it. Easy seated position. Maybe that's cross-legged for you. Sitting up tall here, bring your hands, palms face up onto your knees, and then press your pointer finger and your thumb together as a yoga mudra or a hand position, helping you focus your attention just a little bit more. Sitting up tall here, maybe closing your eyes, maybe shifting your weight forward and back just a little bit, trying to find where your shoulders float over your hips. Keeping your eyes closed here. We're going to take 3 breaths at your own pace, focusing your energy at the present, but accepting that your mind might wander and acknowledging where it goes without judgment or without too much attention, just letting it happen. 3 breaths at your own pace here. Ujjayi, big belly breath in. Whisper in the back of your throat on the exhale. Soften the muscles around your eyes. Unclench your jaw. And just acknowledging if your mind drifted somewhere else, noticing it without any judgment. It's all good. Then go ahead and start to open your eyes. Turning your palms face down, holding onto your knees here. We'll just do a few seated cat-cows. Inhaling your chest forward in between your arms, shifting your weight forward, bringing your chest forward, inhaling, expanding through that front body. And then exhale, press your knees away to round your back to the wall behind you. Squeezing that air out. Inhaling for your cow. Belly expands, chest forward in between your arms. And then exhale, round it back. 2 more times like this. Inhale for your cow. Exhale for your cat. 1 more time. Inhale for your cow. And exhale for your cat. And then come back through center, finding that long line from the top of your head down through your tailbone. We're going to do just an easy back bend here, easing our way to opening the front body. Start to bring your hands down by your hips. If you can, point your fingers towards your knees. If that's too much on your shoulders, you can have your fingers splayed out to the side. Let's see if you can get your fingers facing forward so that you can open the chest, expand across your collarbones here using that press. You can maybe start to walk your hands back away from your hips, back behind you as you puff that chest up to the sky, expand across the collarbones. And if that isn't right, you can start to fan the fingers out to the side if you need a little bit more space. Breathing here, walking back any amount with your hands, expanding the entire chest up to the sky. Maybe start to bring your belly forward and finding that openness all through the front body. If it's all right with your neck, maybe start to look up to the ceiling. Maybe starting to look back behind you, opening through the throat and the neck. Big belly breath in here, expanding through the whole front body. And then as you exhale, start to bring your gaze back forward, slowly easing out of it. Walking your hands back in towards your hips. Sitting up tall here, resetting. And then bring your hands in front of your knees. And just walking your hands forward for a little stretch over those crossed legs. Just for 1 breath here, reaching your hands forward out in front of you. Inhaling a long spine and exhaling, falling into this forward fold. And then start to walk your hands back in towards your knees and switch the cross of your legs. So if your right leg was in front of your left, switch so your left leg is in front of your right. And then sitting up tall here. Bring your hands back behind your chest. And you can grab opposite elbows behind your back. Or my favorite is to press your fists into one another. Pressing your fists together back behind your back. They can stay low, or you can start to inch your fists up towards your shoulder blades, any amount. Pressing your fists into each other, really clenching your hands here. Pressing your fists into each other so much that your elbows start to fan out and back, opening through the chest here. See if you can shift your weight back ever so slightly, trying to get your spine in line. Long spine. And then start to hinge forward. With that long spine, letting that hinge come from your hips, folding forward any amount. Generally, this is going to be the tighter hip because it's not the natural way for you to sit. And we have a little bit of extra work expanding through the chest as we fold forward. So accept that it might not be as far as the last fold we did. One more breath here. Exhaling that fold. On your next inhale, let that inhale rise you up through tall seated position. And then as you exhale, release your hands. If you want to shake out your arms, shake them out. Sometimes it can be a little bit of an intense stretch on your shoulders. And then start to walk your hands in front of your legs and start popping yourself up in all fours position. Roll up onto your knees. Coming up to that all fours position. Stacking your wrists underneath your shoulders, your knees, underneath your hips. You're in a good place here to really find that alignment. And you can always start in that alignment. And if it really doesn't feel good, you can always spread your knees further apart or your hands further away from your shoulders. There's really no one precise way of doing this, but starting aligned and then finding what works for you. Pressing into your hands and your knees here, starting to roll your shoulders down your spine towards your hips, maybe bringing your elbow pits or the inner parts of your elbows towards the front of the room. Beautiful. And then you can relax a little bit. We're going to do a few spinal rolls here, sort of like a side crunched cat-cow. So we can start with a few different steps. Inhaling your chest forward for a regular cow pose, bringing your chest forward in between your arms, expanding the belly down. And then as at the bottom of that inhale, before you start to exhale, start looking over your right shoulder to your right hip. And then curl your way up into cat pose from here, slowly coming out of that stretch on the left side, looking down for your cat pose, coming through center on your cat pose. And before you start to inhale, look over that left shoulder at your left hip and start to crunch over to the left as you start to dip your belly down, coming through center, and not that inhale coming through center into your cow pose. So you can stick to that, or it could be more fluid, inhaling and exhaling through your cat and cow, but maybe rolling through the spine a little bit differently. Flowing through your version, squeezing your belly in and rounding on the exhale, and expanding and letting your chest reach forward on the inhales. Two more like this. And then switch to the opposite direction. Inhaling belly down, exhaling, rounding your back up. Two more like this. Two. And then when you're ready, coming back through center. And then start to bring your toes to touch at the back of your mat. Maybe spread your knees a little bit further apart as you sit your hips back into child's pose. Bringing the hips down towards the heels. Start to reach those hands away from your face. Extended child's pose here. Pressing so much into your hands, maybe your elbows pop up off the mat. Letting your hips sink towards your heels. Any amount. Breathing here. One more big belly breath in. And then letting that go. Tucking the toes under here. And then start to press your hips up and away, coming into downward facing dog. Making an upside down V with your body here. Giving yourself a generous bend through the knees as we're starting off in our first downward facing dog. But engaging through those legs. Seeing if you can press your hips higher. Pressing your hips further away from your hands. Relaxing through the feet slightly. Seeing if you can find a little bit of a stretch through the ankle. Pressing into each finger. Pressing each finger into the mat here. Taking the weight out of your wrists. Letting your head hang. No effort through the neck. Take a big belly breath in here. Opening the mouth on the exhale. Let it all go. And on your next exhale, start to walk your feet to meet your hands slowly up to meet the mat. Seeing if you can get your heels down first before your toes. And then maybe having your feet hips width distance on the mat here, feet parallel, if that's all right with your body. Bending your knees and letting yourself hang here in this forward fold. Maybe grabbing opposite elbows, letting your torso hang heavy. Folding forward here. One more breath here. Maybe if your hamstrings are feeling good, start to press more energetically into your feet. Starting to straighten the legs more, getting a nice stretch through the backs of the hamstrings. And then release your elbows if you had them back onto the ground. And we're going to just slowly roll up to standing, stacking one vertebrae at a time, rounding up. Let your head be the last thing to come up. Stacking it in line with the rest of your spine. Standing here in Tadasana. You can bring your toes to touch if you like to do it the traditional style, or keeping your feet hips width distance is also a great option. Pressing so much in your feet that you start to engage through the legs. Maybe swaying a little bit forward and back, finding the most stable part of your foot. Maybe popping up your toes and spreading them out, and then replant them onto the ground, finding a nice stance here. Pressing into your feet, engaging through the legs, releasing your butt muscles slightly here, and draw those lower hip bones up towards your low ribs, finding a little bit of engagement through the core here as you reach your sternum, the center of your chest up to the sky, and broaden across the collarbones. Reaching your hands down by your side, having a soft gaze here. Keeping your torso where it is. Inhaling your arms out and up overhead. They can be forward towards the corner of the room or straight up to the sky, depending on your shoulder flexibility. And then start to look up and notice how as you start to look up, your chest goes with your head. And then if you can, reset your chest looking forward with the arms up overhead. Releasing your hands out and down back to your side, resetting into Tadasana. And we'll flow through a modified Sun Salutation A with 5 breaths per pose, except for Chaturanga, don't worry. But slowly easing into it. So standing tall in your Tadasana here for 5 breaths. Finding that Ujjayi whisper in the back of your throat, maybe closing the eyes. One more breath here. And at the bottom of your exhale, start to sweep your arms out and up overhead. For your Urdhva Hastasana, or arms overhead in Tadasana. Looking forward, keeping your chest where it was in Tadasana, just reaching the arms up and overhead, maybe wrapping those outer upper arms in towards your face, wrapping those shoulders away from your ears. Five breaths here. Two more breaths. And at the bottom of the last inhale, start to bend your knees slightly, reaching your arms out to the side as you start to fold forward, swan dive forward, hinging at the hips, exhaling into this forward fold. Breathing into the forward fold. Maybe your hands are on the ground. Maybe you're starting to straighten the legs. Engaging the belly button towards the spine here to see if you can fold, hinging your torso closer to your legs. Two more breaths here. And at the bottom of your next exhale, start to look forward, bringing your chest up as you inhale into a half lift, bringing your fingertips gently to your shins without any weight, reaching your chest forward, trying to get your torso parallel to the ground. Inhaling here and exhaling for 5 breaths. Slight bend in the knees, pressing through the entire foot. Reaching that head away from your hips, rolling those shoulders away from your ears. 2 more breaths here. At the bottom of that next inhale, start to bend your knees to plant your hands onto the ground, trying to keep that spine as long as possible. Planting your hands here into the ground. As you exhale, step your feet back into a high plank position. Here in your plank, wrapping those outer upper arms in to broaden across the collarbones, holding your plank here, knees up or down. And as we flow through Chaturanga or low plank, knees up or down, traditionally the elbows are wrapped in towards the ribs and you're bending your elbows back. It's more of a tricep push-up. But if that feels horrible in your body, don't do it. And just do a regular push-up. Holding it, hovering at the bottom. And then let your belly fall all the way to the ground here. Walking your fingers back slightly, setting up your fingertips in line with your nipples here. Pressing the tops of your feet into the ground and wrapping those elbows in towards each other behind your back. And on your next inhale, peel your chest up off the ground, drawing your belly button up instead of down for your low cobra here. Bhujangasana. Pressing into your hands. And then start to take the weight out of your hands and press into your feet and your hips. 2 more breaths here. Engaging through the back body, reaching your head up in line with your spine. 1 more breath here. Inhaling fully to expand your chest. And then exhale, release that work. Press into your hands, bending at the knee to shift your hips back through child's pose. And then tucking those toes under. Bringing your knees off the ground and pressing your hips up and back into your downward facing dog here. As you exhale. And holding your downward facing dog for 5 breaths. Breathing here at your own pace, finding that Ujjayi breath if you lost it. Pressing through your feet, seeing if you can reach your hips further up to the sky by pressing the entire foot into the ground. Without moving your hands and your feet, can you bring your chest further closer to the ground? Drawing those elbow pits towards each other or towards the front of the room, allowing your shoulders to fall away from your ears. 1 more breath here. Then at the bottom of your next exhale, start to look in between your hands and step, walk, or float your feet to meet your hands. Inhaling for that half lift, drawing your chest forward, head and tailbone pressing away from each other as you inhale a long spine. And then exhale, release it, folding forward. Reaching your arms out as you come up to standing with arms overhead. Try to keep a long spine, bending at the knees slightly to come all the way up to standing. Arms overhead, reaching up to the sky as you inhale, and then exhale, let your hands fall down by your side, pressing back into Tadasana. We're going to do a more traditional Sun Salutation A now, but if you would like to stick to that modified version, go for it. Longer breaths or more modified poses. But if you want a little bit more of a challenge and a faster pace, let's do each pose with 1 breath instead of 5. Standing here in Tadasana. And at the bottom of your next exhale, we'll start. Inhale, reach the arms out and up overhead. Exhale, bend the knees to hinge your hips, fold forward. Inhale, half lift, fingertips to shins. Exhale, plant your hands, step back to plank, lower at the bottom of that exhale through your version of chaturanga or push-up. Rolling over the toes, inhaling for upward facing dog or low cobra, belly down. If you're in upward facing dog, just the hands and the feet are on the ground. Everything else is lifted off. And then as you exhale, shift your Hips up and back, rolling over the toes for your downward facing dog. Looking forward in between your hands. Step, walk, or float your feet in between your hands. Inhale for that half lift. Fingertips to shins. Exhale, folding forward. Inhaling, coming up with a long, straight spine. Arms up overhead as you inhale. And then exhale, release your hands to your sides. Setting up for sun salutation B variation. Keeping your feet parallel or bringing your toes to touch and your feet closer together. We're going to come into chair pose or Utkatasana, basically a squat with the knees facing forward, trying to point your knees wherever your feet are pointing. So if your toes are touching, let your knees touch. If your feet are parallel and hips with distance, keep your knees parallel and hips with distance. When you're ready, as you inhale, sit your hips back and down, coming into that squat position like you're trying to sit into a chair back behind you. And then inhale your arms up overhead in line with your ears. Beautiful chair pose here. Shifting your hips further back so that you can see your toes in front of your knees. Beautiful. One more inhale here. And then exhale, hinging at your hips, folding forward, releasing that work, straightening through the legs any amount. Inhale for that half lift, fingertips to shins. Bending your knees and stepping back to plank on the exhale. Flowing through your version of a chaturanga half push-up. Inhaling for low cobra or upward facing dog. And then exhaling, making your way back to downward facing dog. Bringing your right knee into your chest. Hugging your right knee in towards your chest. Trying to keep your hips as high as you can as you shift your weight forward and plant your right foot in between your hands. Beautiful. Setting up for warrior one here. So spinning your back foot down so the entire foot is on the mat. Setting up heel to heel alignment or wider. Maybe walking your right foot over to the right. And then maybe walking that left foot closer to your right foot so that you can get the entire foot pressing onto the ground. Keeping that left toes angled towards the front of the mat slightly. And then pressing into your front right foot. Come up onto your fingertips. Puff your chest up. And then whenever you're ready, inhaling, coming and bringing your torso all the way upright. Maybe arms overhead as you fully inhale, coming into your warrior one position. Trying to keep your chest facing forward over that right knee. Maybe bringing your palms to touch and bringing those hands just slightly more in front of your face. You can see your arms out of your periphery if your hands are pressing into each other, drawing your attention up. One more breath here. And at the bottom of your next inhale, start to release your hands, pressing them on either side of your right foot. And then exhale, stepping that foot back to meet your left back foot. Flowing through your version of a chaturanga push-up, inhaling for your upward facing dog or a low cobra. And then exhale, shifting your hips up and back into downward facing dog. And you don't always have to flow through this. We're still building a little bit of heat in the body. But if it is at any point ever too much, you can just step back into downward facing dog. Now we'll set up on the other side, bringing that left knee into your chest, hugging that knee into your chest, keeping your hips high, and then planting that left foot in between your hands. Planting the back left heel, and then walking that left foot over to the left more, trying to take a look and see if your heels are aligned with one another, heel to heel alignment, or wider. Pressing through the back right foot, coming up onto your fingertips, inhaling your chest forward, finding that long spine. And then in your next inhale, bring your torso upright, maybe arms overhead, coming up into warrior one position. Pressing through both legs, straight and strong through the back leg, bent weight in the front left heel. Reaching your arms in line with your ears up to the sky or out in front of your face slightly at an angle, bringing your palms together to touch. Wherever you are, breathe fully in, big belly breath in, Ujjayi, exhale. One more breath here. And then as you exhale next, plant your hands on either side of your foot. You can always step back to downward facing dog, but if you'd like to, as you exhale, take that left foot back to meet the right and flow through your version of a chaturanga, inhaling to low cobra or upward facing dog, and exhaling, pressing up and back into downward facing dog. Few breaths here. Pressing into your hands, straightening and engaging through the arms. If you're an elbow hyperextender, slight bend through the elbows, finding that engagement, stabilization muscles through the arms. We have a grumble pig in the background. And on your next exhale, go ahead and bring your knees to the mat. And then maybe bring your legs to touch one another, bring your heels to touch, and start sitting back onto your heels, coming up to a seated position here. Sitting up tall, resetting in our seated position here. Finding a long line from the top of your head down to your seat. A long spine here. Maybe closing the eyes for a moment. And then start to shift your weight forward and bring your butt off of your heels, coming up to a kneeling position. Bringing your knees about hips width distance, taking a look and trying to set them up about hips width distance, and keeping your shins parallel to one another back behind you so they're not splayed out or tucked too far in. And then pressing through your knees, see if you can engage slightly through your abdominals, lower ribs, and hip bones, reaching towards each other to try to bring your hips forward. Try and get a long line from the front body, broadening up through the chest here. See if you can inhale your chest forward and up, bringing your sternum to the sky, keeping that press of the hips forward. We're coming into a camel pose here. From here, maybe bring your hands to your lower back, your sacrum area, so just below your lower back. Bringing your hands, palms, fingers face down or up, whatever feels best for you. Pressing your hips forward as you press your hands into your sacrum. And then inhaling, expanding and broadening through the chest. Breathing here. Maybe reaching your chin forward, looking up to the sky. As you inhale, draw that belly button in, back towards your spine. Don't let it puff out too much. Inhaling, expanding through the chest, keeping that abdominal engagement. And then as you exhale next, come back through center, bringing your torso back upright. Maybe your hands to your hips. If you need a rest, you can sit back onto your heels, or we're going to do that one more time, taking a little bit further if you'd like, or coming back into that position that we just did. Setting up again as we inhale, engaging through the legs, pressing those hips forward, drawing the low ribs and the hip bones together as you broaden across the chest, bring your sternum up to the sky, bringing your hands back to your sacrum, just above your butt. Pressing your chest forward and up, pressing your hips forward, staying here and breathing. Or if you need more, maybe bringing those hands back to your heels. Inhaling your chest forward, breathing here, maybe looking up at the sky, maybe looking back behind you, letting your head fall back, if that's all right with your neck. Inhaling and expanding here. You are the hump of a camel here. One more breath wherever you are. On your next inhale, coming back upright. Hands to your hips. If you're a little bit lightheaded, go ahead and sit your hips back onto your heels. Breathing here. And then go ahead and sit your hips off of your feet over to the side and bring your legs out long in front of you. And then bring that right knee bent and in towards your chest, stacking the right foot over, crossing it over your left thigh, stepping it up and over. Hey, buddy, are you making an appearance?
Doing the stretches.
Yeah. Even our Grumble Pig is doing his stretches, right? And then bringing that knee into your chest, keeping that left leg out in front of you, or bending your left knee and tucking that foot in towards your right hip. Wherever you are, inhaling your chest up, hugging that right knee in towards your chest, and then wrapping that left arm around that right knee as you start to twist your chest over to the right. Bringing that right hand back behind you for a little kickstand. Inhaling, expanding your chest forward in long spine, and exhale, release into that twist. Drawing your belly button towards your spine. Maybe that gives you a little bit more space to twist here. One more big breath in. And exhale. On your next inhale, bring your torso forward and release your right knee and release both feet out long in front of you, resetting for the other side. And then start to bring that left knee in towards your chest, stacking and planting that left foot on the outer side of your right thigh, hugging that left knee in towards your chest, keeping that right leg long out in front of you, or tucking that right foot in towards your left hip. Setting up here, inhaling your chest forward, bringing that left knee in towards your chest. And then circle that right arm out and around, wrapping it around that left knee, puffing your chest up, As you inhale, have a long spine. And as you exhale, come into that twist, giving yourself a kickstand with that left hand back behind your back. Inhaling, expanding with a long spine, and exhaling, twisting. Starting to look forward, releasing that twist. As you exhale, bring both hands to your left knee, and then release that leg back forward, bringing both legs out in front of you. Engaging through both legs, flexing through the feet, and see what feels most natural for you, if your feet are together or if they're separated a little bit here. Sitting up tall, bring your hands back by your hips, pressing your palms in to the ground with bent elbows so that your shoulders are still falling away from your ears, but you're puffing your chest forward slightly, finding some engagement through the torso, pressing into the hands. Setting up here for a forward fold. Inhaling a long spine. And as you exhale, maybe start to walk your hands towards your feet. You can stop anywhere where you're feeling a good stretch through the hamstrings and you're not rounding too much through the back. Maybe grabbing hold of your legs, your thighs, your calves, your feet, whatever you would like to hold on to. Inhaling, expanding through the chest, long spine. And then as you exhale, go ahead and round into it. Let it feel good. Release the work here. Letting gravity take over as you stretch. One more breath here, maybe closing the eyes. Open the mouth on the exhale and let it go. And then maybe round yourself back up to seated. Torso upright and spine long. And then slowly start to release your torso back, engaging the abdominals to slowly come back to lying on your back. Maybe bringing your knees with you, hugging your knees into your chest. Maybe grabbing the outer edges of your feet from the inner knees. So reaching in between your legs to grab the outer edges of your feet for a little happy baby. Maybe reaching the soles of your feet up to the sky. Maybe straightening your legs or keeping them bent. Maybe your knees go wide, or maybe they stay in towards your torso and your chest. Wherever you are, finding a little bit of movement and release through the lower back, through the hips, through the legs. Finding a little bit of playful movement. Taking this pose a lot less seriously than anything else. Be a happy baby. Straightening out one leg maybe and make a little kick with your legs. Ninja baby. And then slowly making your way back through stillness. Releasing the hold you had on your foot. Maybe hugging your knees in for one last time. And then releasing your legs out long on the mat. Coming back in to Shavasana, where we started in our relaxation pose here. Releasing your arms away from your body. Let them fall away. Let your legs splay open, fall away from the body. Maybe closing the eyes here. Releasing any muscles around the eyes, unclenching the jaw, and then start to release the control you had on the breath. Let your breath come naturally. With the idea of less is more, you have more time and attention to do what feels best for your body and for your mind. Giving yourself that space as we slow things down. Becoming more mindful in your movements. Accepting your surroundings. Being more present here and now. You can always stay here and take a nap. Yoga nap transition. Get a little pressure on your shoulders if that's all right. And maybe start wiggling the fingers and the toes, bringing some movement back into your body. You can always stay in that supine laying down position if you'd like. But if you're ready, maybe rolling through the wrists and the ankles, maybe hugging your knees into your chest, to either rock and roll up to seated or to fall over to one side and then press yourself up. And we'll meet in an easy sitting pose. Maybe it's cross-legged. And sitting up tall here, closing the eyes. Maybe bringing the palms of your hands together. Maybe rubbing them together, finding a little heat friction, some of that energy. And then press one hand into your heart space, your chest, and then your other hand on top of that. Pressing that warmth of your hands into your chest, into your heart. Here, accepting yourself for who you are and giving yourself a little gratitude for making this space for yourself to do yoga, to find a little bit of mindfulness. And the mindfulness is what we take off the mat. From my warm heart space to yours, namaste. All right. Well, first say thank you, beautiful mom.
Thank you.
And then thank you to all you virtual people out there for tuning in. It is always such a pleasure to do Tuesday morning yogas. As always, these are donation-based classes. If you can donate, it is appreciated via Venmo at evweezer. And then at least 50% of those donations I send off to a different charity each week. And if you have any recommendations for charities causes or charities that you would like to recommend, I donate those donations to. Let me know. And then also, if you have any recommendations for poses or themes for next week's sequence, always coming up with new sequences every week. Let me know. I also posted my website in the chat if you're interested for more yoga or meditation twice weekly. I'm part of a group of yoga teachers that does meditations on Monday and Friday nights. Sort of setting up the beginning and the end of the week. And it started off as a rain meditation, and now it's turned into a great way of holding space for each other and everybody else. So if you're interested in any of that, take a look. Otherwise, have a great day.